What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Founder Academy. I am Mark, the FUT founder. Oh man, we are just playing catch up here, guys. So I just literally got in from work. So obviously, I don't wear Man United jerseys to work. I have to dress up, wear a buttoned up dress shirt and everything like that. But I changed into my awesome Man United jersey that my beautiful girlfriend got me. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's got to be Pogba, right? We got to go Pogba 6 because he's my favorite player, right? But that's not what you guys are here for. You're here to see FIFA content, right? So before we jump into everything, before we get started, if you guys could like the video down below and comment, I always appreciate comments. Helps grow the channel. Anything that you guys have to say, anyone new to the channel, welcome. So yeah, we are playing massive catch-up, guys. I was looking at this when I was editing all this footage. This is from Champs almost 2 weeks ago. I apologize for being so far behind. It's just I have been so busy with work. I've been doing relief at a lot of different locations, so it's caused me to have to kind of put some of the editing on hold, right? Editing takes a long time to do. I have to really dedicate it. I want to make sure that you guys are getting the best content you possibly can with my jibber jabber, so I want to make sure that I'm focused. But I was like, it's getting on like weeks and weeks and weeks. We had like, I think something like, I'm not even kidding, about 80 clips, right? And a game is about one clip, right? There's been SBCs and stuff, but we had so much backlog, guys. We got a ton of really cool content. I was just like looking at this when I was watching these clips to basically edit this video, and I was looking at where the team was at, and man, is it different. I think right now we have 4 Team of the Year players. They're the only tradable cards that I even have in my squad. Everything else is untradeable because there's been so much cool content. Normally I don't praise EA for a whole lot of things. Like, I'm not one to just jump on them and say this game sucks, because like, look, I play it a ton. I actually enjoy FIFA. I think there's pros and cons to it, but the content has just gotten better and better every year. So that's something that I don't think anyone complains about. People in this community find things to complain about. I don't want to try to find things to complain about. I actually want to hear the positive stuff. And I think content's one of them. The content has just been so good this year. There's so many good cards. I've dumped so much like fodder into it. Normally, I don't even get involved really with the game until like almost team of the season, as crazy as that sounds. I don't want to say team of the season. Like, look, I play it throughout the course of the year, but we'll put it this way. I've never, ever had a team of the year this early in the game, let alone 4 of them. So that shows you how good I have... No, that doesn't make any sense. How much I've enjoyed playing the game, I guess, so far at this point in FIFA, right, during the calendar year. Like, Team of the Years have been so unattainable in the past. I think with this many people playing them, just as like an analogy for how popular the game has been this year, like I saw something, one of the leakers basically come out saying that they think they're pretty positive that a mid Ronaldo is going to be coming out as an SBC, right? So I don't know how early that's going to be. It might be during FUT Swaps 2, but even then, right, for them to even offer a mid CR9 Ronaldo not CR9, excuse me, R9 Ronaldo this early is unheard of. And I think that's a testament to how many people are playing, how many packs have been opened. They would only be doing that if they needed coin sinks, right? So that's going to be a huge coin sink. The guy's like 5.5 million on the market at this point. So I think he'll be anywhere, even if he's half of that, that's still a really expensive SBC. But they normally don't release these guys until like well into the game, like I would say March, April time. So for him to be coming out even this close to Team of the Year, that just shows you how many coins, how many packs, how many people are playing this game. And it's just, they need to get rid of all those coins, right? They don't want people to have that much liquidity, because then they're just going to have all the money in the world, all the coins in the world to buy Ronaldo's and buy Team of the Season players. So they need to basically rinse people's clubs. They need to have them dump stuff into untradables. And then when Team of the Season comes out, that's when people start putting money back into the game, because they want to get some of these cool new cards. Right now, the Future Stars are out. Future Stars is normally a promotion that I thought I would be really engaged with, just because I like a lot of the young talent and identifying guys. I always watch like the top 100 talent that a lot of the UK publications and a lot of the Euro publications put out. I like following a lot of those guys, seeing where their careers progress to. However, this year I just think the players are just, I don't want to say they're overrated, but they're overvalued. Like Jude Bellingham from Team 1 is 1.8 million. I was expecting him to be like in and around the 8 or 900K. And then Tchouameni, who like actually would fit in my team perfectly for where we're going to be in a couple episodes. I was expecting him to really, really drop in price, and he's still about like 1.1. Like, that's way too much. Like, that card is nowhere near worth that. Like, you can go get Team of the Year Jorginho for that, but I don't know if it's just because of the supply. People are just having hangover from Team of the Year, or what's causing it, but it's just obviously like people have a ton of content, or sorry, a ton of not a ton. That's what I'm getting at. They don't have any coins. They don't have enough money to actually spend, so the people that do pack them, they can ask whatever they want. Sorry, guys. It's been a long day at work, so I guess I was just kind of tongue-tied there. But yeah, they don't have the money to be able to afford that. And it's causing people that actually do pack them to ask an absolute like arm and a leg for him. Like, it's crazy. At 1.1 million, he's nowhere near worth that. To go and say that you can get a Team of the Year midfielder for 1.1, I think that's crazy. I am actually really impressed with how much the Team of the Years have held their value. When they came out, knowing my luck, right, Messi was the only card that I wanted. He was really expensive, and he dropped down to like 3.39, 3.38, somewhere in there. And then he kind of went back up, and he held that. So I got him for like 3.45, I think. He has gone down to like 3.2, and every other card has held their value. So yeah, that's just my luck, guys, with FIFA. But it's okay. He's not going anywhere. For me to be able to say that I have, and I guess that's a spoiler alert, have Team of the Year Messi this early on in the game, I am so excited to be able to say that, because I'm just, it's going to be a lot of fun for the rest of the year. I generally don't turn my teams over that much. Like, I don't get fatigued with a lot of players. So even though I do make trades and stuff like that, like, this team's really different. The fact that I have Messi, he's not going anywhere, right? Unless that Team of the Season came out and he was like a central card and I could actually just build a 4-2-3-1 narrow, like, with a central card during Team of the Season, that would be the only way I'd make a change, which is not totally impossible. I think EA is smart enough to know that they want people to want a Messi, and the amount of people that have Messi that like are like need to have him in their team that will have Team of the Year already for a very affordable price. Don't be surprised if you see him come out in a central position, because they need to create demand somehow for that card. And yeah, the only way to really do that is to have him be in a central position. Look at Neymar, right? That winter wildcards Neymar, even though his stats aren't that much better, he is astronomically high. He's like 4 million something, right? So I mean, he's more than Messi, right? A Team of the Year Messi. So that's saying something. I actually haven't seen too many people use that card now that I think about it. Like, Neymar is kind of one of those guys that I think people just gravitate to automatically, and they still do it based on his performance from last year and how much they enjoyed the card last year and in previous FIFAs. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people will hate on me for saying this, but I don't think that he's really been that good this year. I've heard a lot of people complain about him, and not too many people just go, I have to have Neymar in the squad. I think the people that say they have to have Neymar are just doing it based on historical reasoning. I don't think they've really looked at that card and said, like, this guy's been so good, I have to keep him in the team. So it's been really interesting. Anyway, what you guys are seeing here is this guy was a really interesting opponent. He was hyper aggressive. I left this game in. I left all of my games in from the FUT Champs. This is the weekend league stuff, the FUT Champions Finals. This guy was not a terrible player, but he wasn't a great player. He was just so aggressive, he ended up getting a guy sent off. And I left a lot of those clips in there because I wanted you guys to see, like, living proof of what happens when you get a red card, right? I've said this before, but people that are new to the channel, when you get a red card, the team that got the red card actually gets a defensive boost, and your team, if you're playing against the guy who's got a red card, your team gets nerfed in the final third. So as you guys can watch a lot of that, I know people are just going to say, oh, your finishing was terrible. It's not that, guys. Like, you can use all those excuses you want in the book, but the reality is, like, stuff that would normally rocket in just goes flying wide. They underhit things. The shots are more central. They do stuff like that where they bumble shots. It's really ridiculous. And it happens a ton. Now, you're probably going to end up scoring, but what they don't want you doing is running up the score because you got an extra man, right? So, like, they're falling all over the place. They're just barely missing shots. They're taking wide, weavy runs, which you guys know how much I hate those. The shots are just underpowered. They're central. It just, the keeper will turn into, like, an absolute monster. Now, eventually, we know, there you go, that we're going to end up scoring. However, even that, right? Like, look at his positioning, Fernando Torres. He dropped back, like, you're eventually going to get one if you're just peppering a guy, but it can be very frustrating because if you're playing against a really good opponent and it's a really tight game and he gets a card, it can actually be a detriment to you. Like, he can he can win the game based on the fact that he just got a red card. I've had that happen in previous FIFA, so it's something to watch out for, guys. Definitely pay attention to that. If you're playing against a guy who's got a red, be very cautious of counterattacks. Basically what the game is doing, that was on me. That was the penalty. I need to work on my penalties. But all the other opportunities that are happening, like they just, as soon as they get to that final third, your players just get weak. Not weak, but their sliders drop, right? And there I was just in my own head because I was like, I need to get a really high percentage shot away. But you guys can see here, like a lot of these opportunities, they're not getting like players actually their positioning, their awareness, their offensive awareness in that final third just falls through the floor. My players are just taking really heavy touches. The ball's bouncing. It's hard to get it under control. And once you start putting in a few of them, it's just going to eventually start increasing your sliders. He'll decrease. But right after that red card, that's when you're really going to have... that's when you're really going to have a hard time. You really got to go for just really safe shots. Like just go for some sweaty tramp goals, that type of stuff. Like don't take too many high risk things, because if you're only up by 1 or 2 goals, you leave your opponent hanging around. The game is going to force a counterattack at some point. Not force it, but like he's going to get a counterattack, because essentially, like I said, in that final third, his defensive players become absolute heroes, and then they counterattack, and he's going to hit you on the break, and then next thing you know, it's 1-1, and you're going into extra time in a game that you probably should have won. So that's something that's just a veteran knowledge. You guys need to, if you're not already aware of that, hopefully that helps you guys. Pay attention, play really safe, just hold possession, because defensively your opponent's going to become a superhero when he gets that red. So just watch for that high percentage shots, guys. Don't do anything too risky. Once you putt a few past him, his defensive sliders will start to drop again. The dynamic difficulty will swing in your favor, and you can just start pumping in goals. But get 1 or 2 of them just for safety measures. This guy, I remember this game very vividly. Now, I think our first 2 losses that we took in the weekend league were from the exact same thing. Now, this guy, I play a lot of Mexican players just because I'm on the West Coast, and for some reason, I don't know if I'm matching up against players actually in Mexico, or if it's just the Latino community that's in California, because we're both on the Pacific Coast. I come up against a ton of Mexican players. Now, they will use a lot of Hispanic players, a lot of Mexicans, like Corona will be in the team a lot. So that's a way to identify. And also they'll have like the Mexican logo. They almost always have the Mexican logo in it. They are very aggressive. Like, I hate to sweepingly generalize, but when I've played against a lot of Mexican players, they are very aggressive. They're always really good FIFA players for the most part, but like they are very aggressive when it comes to like their attack and their defense. Now, this guy played... one of the things that I just despise about this FIFA is the ultra attacking right out the gate. This guy played a 4-2-4 right out of the gate, and he just hit me for 4 goals. Now, as you guys have seen in previous games that I've played, this might even be the first loss we've taken on the channel. I can't remember. Actually, no, we took some losses in the last one because we did the qualifying. But yeah, so when we were playing against our opponent in this game, like you guys can see in the previous ones, we set up in a 4-2-3-1, and I'll be able to go shot for shot. I kind of play a real possession-heavy game. The only time that doesn't work is when I'm playing against these types of guys that just... essentially they break the game from the start. And I've complained about this multiple times, so I apologize if I sound like a broken record, but really what's happening here is the guys are just going 4-2-4 right out of the gate, and it shouldn't really work as good as it does. It's just an incredibly broken tactic. I refuse to do it out of the gate just because I think I don't want to play that way. And I know, like, I'm never going to be a pro, guys. I'm never going to like try to go 20-0. That's not... Of course, I'm going to try, but like it's not really my goal. If it was my goal right now with the meta of this game, I think if you just went 4-2-4 right out the start, you're automatically going to win 50% of your games just based on the fact that you're breaking the game mechanic. And that's me being really like honest, right? I refuse to do it, not because I'm holier than thou, but I just don't think it's a very fun way of playing right out the gate. The game is just super spammy, as you guys can see. It's almost like just wave of attack after wave of attack, and I don't think it's not true to the sport. I think it's a disgrace to the sport, to be honest with you. I do it when I'm down because I need to do it to get back into the game. So, like, look, it's not like I'll never do it, but, like, to do it right out of the start of the game, I think it's a real cheap tactic. It's tactic abuse. And maybe it's just sour grapes. So I apologize, guys, for me sounding like I'm just complaining about it. I just think it's really stupid that the game works the way it does. when you go right out of the gate doing a 4-2-4, right? Like you guys can see, like both defenses essentially are just incapable of stopping anything. It's way too overpowered, and I don't mind if it affects the team doing it. But two things I'd like to see happen. One is I'd like to see their stamina absolutely fall through the floor. Like, look at the guy's stamina, his Diaz, right? Like, we're in the 81st minute. Look at these guys. He is in essentially like an ultra attacking, like hyper aggressive mode. He's just in my face. Their stamina has not dropped at all throughout the course of the entire game, right? So my guys have. I don't know what tactic he's doing to. Maybe it's because I went to like constant pressure, so my guys are a lot more aggressive. But the 4-2-4 as a formation, by default, is ultra attacking. It spreads the team apart, right? So the fact that he just goes in a 4-2-4 but doesn't put it on like super aggressive, I think is a really strange tactic. I just think it's really bizarre, and it should impact like the way his team's playing. It should impact their stamina, right? Because it just, there's no way that you could play like having all your 4 defensemen sitting back, having your 4 attackers sitting really high, and then just having 2 midfielders, right? So it ends up being wave here and it's 4-on-4, and then wave up here 4-on-4. It's like small. It's like a training drill, right? Where you just have like sniffers that go in and basically play on the attacking side, and then the ball goes on the other side, and then you've got the attackers on the defenders. Like, it's just 2 separate games that are going on. It's really idiotic. It's really dumb, but it just works really well. Like, credit to my opponent for utilizing it, I guess. I'm not hating on him. I just wish it's something that they would nerf. I just think it's really ridiculous. The stamina's 1, and then 2, I just think it shouldn't impact my team and the way my team's playing if your opponent decides to do it. It should impact his team, and if they're more aggressive. But I hate how much like constant pressure and like ultra attacking formations cause your players to fall like I don't know if it even impacts the composure stat or if that's even really that important, but like it just feels like when you're playing against a formation of a 4-2-4, every player is under duress, so the amount of turnovers is so impacted, right? And again, maybe that's sour grapes. I don't understand it. I think it's really idiotic. I just wish it's something that they would nerf. 4-2-4 should really only be utilized properly late in games when you're trying to get back into it, or if your opponent's way up and you just kind of need to go for it, right? So it should be like using small little bunches where your players are just going to get crazy tired, but if you need to pull a goal or 2 back, you can go into it. It will impact the game. But for guys to play it the entire game, it works way too well. It's just, it's crazy. Anyway, so that was our first game. So after our first loss in the FUT Champions Finals, then we come up against this guy. As you guys can see here, our team's starting to play a little bit poorly. I won't even get into that, the morale element of that. You'll see that later in the next video, or yeah, I think it's the next video, where we just start taking a couple losses in a row. And it was my mistake for not going offline, but they just start taking it, right? They just start taking L after L after L. It becomes really frustrating to play, and I was just getting frustrated and going right into games when I should have taken them offline. But this guy was a decent opponent, but the team was just, you could feel them just starting to play a little sluggish, right? They were just, I don't know what the word I would use for it. They were in the mud, I guess you'd say, right? That's probably the best analogy for it. So this was a really back and forth game. Interesting team this guy had. This is a really strange goal. I don't know how he ends up scoring that. They really need to nerf those. That's ridiculous. I mean, a nice goal, but I don't know how that's still in there. I thought they actually nerfed that, but I guess this was done before the patch, so that makes sense. I don't know if those are those still useful, guys? Like, to do those kind of at the edge of the box, the curling finesse. I never really tried them just because I think they're ridiculous to like shoot from that far out. Like, I just refuse to kind of to do that. Like, I don't like abusing tactics. Like, I was never big on the El Tornado cross of a couple years ago, or like headers. Like, if headers is the meta, I just refuse to do it. You know, I'm just going to play the way I play, and hopefully you guys find it entertaining. Like, I tried to play a tiki-taka game. It works every year to a certain degree, but like I can't bring myself to do those really abused tactics. They're just, I don't know, I just can't do them. I don't know what it is. It's just something about it. I just refuse to do it. Yeah. Ederson, too, missing a crazy amount of shots. So there's been a couple SBCs you guys will see in the upcoming episodes that I've done. We ended up packing, what's his face, Edouard Mendy, We also end up doing the David De Gea SBC. At one point, I was looking at potentially getting Donnarumma as my keeper. Ederson was the worst keeper I've used all year. Now, keepers, we'll come back to it in a sec. Actually, this was a really satisfying victory because this guy was super toxic with his celebrations. Again, I don't like using that term that much, but he was just brutal. He actually tried moving the goalkeeper, and it would have gotten me, however, because it was the 90th minute, even though I shot in the direction he moved his keeper, he moved him too far away, and it ended up going right in the middle of the goal. So, joke's on him, because he was just the worst. Absolutely the worst. But, look, he was a good opponent, so maybe I'm just bitter, right, that he was giving me a hard time. But, I don't even know his name, Chirika 17, like he was toxic with his little dumb celebrations there. So super satisfying victory. You guys have those a lot where you just like beat someone and you're just like, yes, that felt good. I had that the other day, actually. I was playing a game. You guys will see that in like episode maybe 3 or 4 away, but I was playing against a guy and he was just absolutely brutal, and I ended up beating, like brutal in the sense that like every time he would score, he would do like ridiculous celebrations, and then when I beat him, it just felt so satisfying. I was like really, really happy, and you just feel like those, I don't know if those are like the reasons why you play FIFA, but like, you know what I mean, when you beat somebody who's just being brutal, you're just like, oh man, that felt good. Here's another Mexican player, right? He's got all, like, I don't know why I keep coming up against Mexican players. Like, I'm in Canada, right? We're so far away. It must be guys in California. I don't know what it is, but yeah, look at that. The guy just runs through my defenders. So as soon as you start picking up a couple of those, a couple of L's, your players just really fall through the mud, right? So yeah, I don't know what the reason for that is. It was just, you know, I keep coming up against these guys left and right, and they're always really good players, right? When I see that Mexican flag, I know I'm gonna be in for it, because like I guess like a lot of the Mexican players super passionate. So I know I'm in for a long game if I see that Mexican flag come up. Really good FIFA players traditionally. So anyway, I was talking about keepers, right? So Ederson, right? Ederson as a keeper was terrible. As you guys can see here, I don't know if this is just his trait or what causes this, but he would habitually run out and he'll just fall out of the way and the shot will go right where he should be. I think this was another one. I think that was another one. I don't think he'll watch the replay, but like Ederson's right here, the guy's coming in and he just does this. He just falls. So the guy shoots it, what should have been right at him, and it just goes over top. He would do that all the time, guys. All the time. He's an 89 rated keeper. I was getting furious, and I was like, normally I don't like to like blame keepers, but like he was terrible. Like absolutely terrible. I don't know if you guys have had that experience. I'm really interested to know who you guys use as keepers. My whole thing with keepers is, like, I've traditionally subscribed to this, that positioning is the most important stat for a keeper. However, this year that doesn't seem to be working for me. So I don't know if that's just because I was wrong or if it just doesn't fit the way this game is made. But, like, look, it has not worked for me at all, because I've tried to get keepers that are really high positionally, and that just has not worked. Ederson just doesn't have any traits. I don't know, like, if he actually physically has traits, but he has not been good. So I had to sell him, right? I think I ended up using him in an SBC, but I didn't really actually need him for any links. I could have used any Premier League goalkeeper. I think I would have been better using Pope. So I've been watching people do this David De Gea SBC. I highly recommend it. Like, you guys will probably see this before, so hopefully you still have time to do it. I think he's a player of the month, so he'll have a lot of days left. But, like, look, the SBC is 30K. Like, go do it, right? So even if you're not a David De Gea fan, like I was talking to my friend Nima, and he was just like, I already have a keeper, I don't need him. I think he had like Donnarumma untradeable. I'm like, it's not even about David De Gea. One, it gives you the option if you do want to switch your back line. That's one of those FOMO ones. Do it while you can, right? The other thing is, like, that card is only an 81 squad and I think an 82 squad. It's like 39K, right? So, like, you'll pay, I think it's like for an 87 rated card, it's something like 15K or something like that, right? So at the very, very least, you can use this guy as an SBC, and you're just really getting rid of, like, you could just go untradables. Just put your untradeable 81s and 82s. You probably have a ton of them. I guarantee that if you're watching this video, you'll have a ton of those cards. Like, it's just going to be an absolutely mindless thing to do, right? Like, it doesn't require any thought. Just do it. Just put them in the club, let them sit there. I do any of those SBCs that are just require a bunch of low-rated fodder because you're going to pack them over and over and over again. You probably have discarded enough guys in the last week or two in order to justify doing that David De Gea SBC. But like, I just let him sit there. You have an 87 rated. If you hate him, if you don't want to use him, if you don't use a Premier League, you can use him in an SBC. It's an 87 rated card to put in an SBC. Now, as for keepers, I actually am using him because I like him. Now, I have Edouard Mendy, and I did pack that Rudiger untradeable, which you guys will see in the future. But I did do the SBC because I ended up doing the Varane SBC as well. So I like the fact that I can hard link directly to Rafa Varane. The other thing is I'm a big David De Gea fan in FIFA, even as the 84. Now, a lot of people are probably not going to like the 84 because he's got a lot of like low-rated stats, like positionally he's only a 79. But what makes that David De Gea card really good is the save with foot trait. He's got really high reflexes. What the hell is that? Like, look at that goal. That was terrible. Yeah, he's got really high reflexes, so he's going to be good in tight, right? Like, these keepers are pretty much all the same from distance. They get beat on the same broken mechanics, but they make the same saves, right? Unless you've got a really, really low-rated keeper that will let way too many lobby shots in, they're almost all going to let in the same shots from afar. So positionally, I don't know if that's just something that this year it's not a big deal, but I think just overall, it's not the most important stat because I feel like keepers all make the same saves. What really is the difference maker between a good keeper and a bad keeper this year is that it's one-on-one chances where the keeper rushes out and can block things. Ederson didn't block anything. When he came running out, guys were just off balance, wrap shooting, and it would go underneath him. When they would turn and they would look right at him, he would do this, he'd fall. He'd short arm things. Like, he didn't make any one-on-one saves. He didn't make any of those, like, in tight, I need him to come out and just make a save. I'm praying that David De Gea has those kick saves. I haven't actually seen it. I don't let too many shots in. I don't know if that just sounds like a hubris comment where I think I'm greater than I am, but like, I feel like if I'm letting it, like, defensively I'm really sound, so I've always been very proud of that, but if I'm letting a shot in, it's probably going to go flying in because I've given up a really, really good chance for my opponent. So I usually don't need keepers to bail me out. If I've left them on an island where they're going one-on-one, the guy's probably putting it away because I've, like I said, left them a really good opportunity. But when I do have those keepers that can make those saves, if he can just bail me out once or twice, to me, that's a bonus, right? I just expect him to make the basic saves, and anything that's one-on-one, I just figure it's a goal. But like I said, I've never had a keeper that's just totally bailed me out. If I can find one of them, man, I'll be happy as a clam because, like, I've just never had those, right? So for a guy to come out and have that save with feet trade, if he's got really high reflexes and he can bail me out 2 or 3 times in a game, I'm just going to be like, man, this is the greatest goalie I've ever used, the best keeper I've ever used. I've never had that. So it will be just a difference maker for me. I'm really excited at that idea. Anyway, back into the game. I don't know what game we're at. We should actually put the amount of games, like the win-loss record. I need to figure out if I can do that on here. I'm sure I could probably figure out how to do that. It shouldn't be that difficult, but I get like confused on the amount of games. I think there's like 10 games on this episode. We just had so many games that we just played back to back to back. I just needed to like make a super long video, guys, so I apologize. This is almost an hour-long video. That's crazy, right? An hour-long video. So hopefully you guys don't mind listening to me. I'm really interested to know where you guys have finished in FUT Champs. This was my only FUT Champs final. One of the things that I found out the hard way is that I would get about 5 or 6 games into like a qualifying run, and then I would forget it, or I'd have to go to work and I wouldn't pick it up again, and then it resets, and I keep forgetting about that. So I need to get the qualification done. So right now I think I've played 2 games for this week. I've got the entire week to finish it, but I need to get those other ones because I'm missing out on the packs. It's not even about the qualification for the finals because a lot of the time I'm not even able to play the finals because I have to work weekends a lot. But I've been missing out on the packs, right? Like if you're playing 7 or 8 games, just play the extra 2, get the packs out of the way. And I keep forgetting to do that, which is really dumb on my part, right? I don't know why I keep forgetting to do that. We come up against this guy. This guy had as soon as I start seeing like a lot of reds, I just go, okay, this guy's going to be a super sweat. And to be honest with you, this guy he was a really good player. Mohamed Salah is a really interesting card to me. Like when I've come up against him, he's been a huge problem. I haven't been able to stop him. Anybody that's courageous enough to use Mo Salah because he's got such a poor weak foot, I know is going to be really good. He's got an incredible card. That player of the month was really good. But if you've got a red version and you're still using it this late in the game, look, you're probably going to be a really, really good player. Like there you go, Mo Salah right off the bat, right? So caused me a problem. And he scored that with his right foot, I think. So To be honest with you, I haven't really paid attention to like weak foots as much. Like this year doesn't seem like it's that big a deal. Like even if you had like Angel Di Maria, like he'll probably force things onto his left, but you could just shoot with guys weak foot. Like if you start thinking too much about it, you're actually going to cause your players to miss it. I actually find that just forgetting about it is just the best way forward. Don't even worry about the weak foot, man. Just hit it. Because like you'll find that guys that have 3-star weak foot are just hitting things just like rocketing into corners. It doesn't even matter. Like you're just gonna smash things in anyway, so it's irrelevant. I almost think weak foot's totally irrelevant, right? I know a lot of people look at like icons like Rivaldo and they just go, I'm not going to use him, he's got terrible weak foot. But I bet you, like first of all, he's going to force everything onto his left foot naturally. He'll take things with the outside of his left. But even if you shot it with his right, you'll notice that these balls that you don't expect to go in are just going to go flying in, right? So anyway, that's my recommendation. Don't worry about weak foot. Don't let it be the reason that you don't get a card. I still wouldn't get like a Ryan Giggs just because I think the card would be crappy and you'd have a poor weak foot. But if it's a guy that you really want to use and his stats look good, don't worry about the weak foot. It's irrelevant in my opinion. I think a 5-star weak foot is helpful, but 4-star is good enough, and 3-star you can live with, right? Like Puskas is 3-star, and he's like one of the best cards I've used all year. Like I still love him. I actually want to get his prime version if I can. I think this guy was playing 4-2. Yeah, this guy was playing 4-2-4. I remember this game as well. So this was the other loss that I was talking about where I don't know if I think I went 4-2-4 and he adjusted and he went 4-2-4. So I'm not going to hate on this one as much because at least he started the game, I believe, to the best of my knowledge, in a regular formation, and then he did what I said in one of the videos that we previously recorded, where I said if your opponent is going into that 4-2-4 and they're going ultra aggressive, ultra attacking, you need to counter it. Don't sit back defensively. Go into it and just go 4-2-4 against 4-2-4 because they actually man mark perfectly. So you'll have 4 in the back line. It will cover the 4 attackers, the 2-on-2 in the mid. And next thing you know, it just becomes a shot for shot. So if you're up 2 goals and your opponent goes 4-2-4, you go 4-2-4. Just bleed the goals, but score more than he does, right? Or score as many as he does, and you'll just go shot for shot and you'll win 7-5. That's basically what happened in this game. This guy went up, and then I went shot for shot with him late in the game. He was brutal with his celebrations, too. He was just driving me nuts with them. But this guy knew how to use it, right? He knew how to play. Like, you basically don't force it. You just go pass, 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 and then turn on the defender. The defenders are so stupid in that ultra-attacking formation. So next thing you know, you have to just sit there taking it, right? And like you just have to hope that your players are fast enough that they can recover because they're going to turn, the attackers are going to turn, they're going to come in on a breakaway, and your keeper is going to be stupid, so he's going to let shots in. So I think this was the biggest drubbing that we took in the entire weekend. As you guys can see, this guy knew exactly how to use it. Your players are exhausted at this point. They're making mistakes. They can't get back. Next thing you know, he's scoring and he's celebrating, right? So he was brutal. He celebrated every single goal. Like, look, I don't actually get that annoyed at celebrations. I know people get really frustrated with them. To me, they don't really bother me. I just think it is what it is, right? It's super cocky, and if you're gonna do it, be prepared that you're igniting a fire underneath your opponent. So even though I'm losing, I decided to celebrate because, like, look, this guy was trying so hard not to let me score goals, even though he was up by 4. So when I scored that 4th one, it felt so good. I knew that at least I left on a goal scoring high, and I knew that he was really, really trying. He was moving his keeper. He was being a total dick. So I knew that he was trying really hard. He did not want me to get that last goal. He just wanted to, win 8-0 if he could. But I guess 4-goal victory wasn't enough for him. So for me to do that celebration right at the end felt really good. I just made sure that it ran out the entire thing. But I think it was one of those ones where EA cut the celebration off. I don't know what causes that, if he can cancel it or if I have to cancel it or what. But it ended up canceling the celebration out kind of partially through. But it was super satisfying even though we ended up taking the L. However, the problem is after that game, your team really falls to the floor, right? Because we took such a bad loss. My theory of morale still being in the game, it impacts your team really poorly. So this game I was not looking forward to. This is what I was saying earlier, that I should have went offline right here. That was my mistake. I remember this, the Ukraine guy. I should have went offline, get my team back on the front foot, get their morale up. But I didn't because I was, people can say, oh, you're playing tilted. I don't think I was playing tilted that was the problem. I think it was just my team was, they were in the mud. They were getting mudded. however, whatever you want to call it, and you can kind of just watch this game unfold, right? So this guy actually started off really good. My players, look at the defensively, Rafa Varane, and Van Dijk, they were just standing around, right? You have to manually pull them back into position. They're getting beat. They're not blocking any shots. So this guy's just peppering. He didn't even really have to try that hard. He could just shoot, excuse me. He could just shoot right through my players, right? It was really simple for him to do. I left that in because that shows you just how the passing works. Like, look at this. Like, that was not a dummy. That was literally just the animation. So my players are having a hard time even completing passes. There's just no room. Like, I left this whole animation. Look at all the players move to one side. I don't know what they're doing. They're just free-flowing. Watch Puskas here. He intercepts it, and then I try to cut back. And then I come back, and one more time, and then watch the tackle here, and he falls over, right? So they start ragdolling, right? Like, it's the same thing over and over, right? So this is just, I'm just leaving this in to show you guys that's the type of stuff that you really, like, there you go, a really terrible pass. I meant that to go to Tierney, but it causes the guy to take it off balance, which causes the accuracy of the passing to really fall through the floor. They don't collect and make these really hard passes. They'll kind of take them on really poor touches. There's another one. Normally they hit that in a ping-ping. It's the 1-2, but instead he passes it behind. So now my Puskas has to stop his run, go back and collect it. And what that does is it allows the defensive AI to get back into position. So, again, it's nothing to do with Avalon here. It's just really totally my team, right? It's just very frustrating because it's the same thing, right? You have to really do those high percentage goals, right? I have to essentially walk the ball into the net, wait till the keeper's out of position. It's just, you're fighting the computer as much as you're fighting the game. And it's just very frustrating, right? So this guy wasn't a terrible player, but he was just, that was a... I don't know. I want to be careful because I don't want to insult him here. But, like, look, you see Rafa Varane doesn't stick out a foot. That's normally plays. Interceptions are really high. Normally just gets it. He doesn't even make an effort. The ball goes right past his foot. The guy just turns at the side from the top of the box and hits it with the left foot, and it goes flying into the near post. I don't know what else to say. Like, I think people, doubters of, the idea of morale being in the game, or doubters of whatever you want to call it, handicap. People can say, oh, well, that's just you making excuses. No, I think the idea that, like, you're just playing bad, to me, is just a ridiculous concept, right? Like, I get it. There's random number generation, but I don't think it's a coincidence that your team make these mistakes after losses, right? I've tried to prove this over and over and over again. And again, I'm not taking anything away from my opponent. Like, look, his team might have taken on losses too, right? There's an elo in the game, but, like, really simple passes, shots that go through, defender that doesn't lock in, next thing he's got a half chance, right? He squandered it, his team, maybe they're getting morale too, right? Like, you can see his players aren't playing that good, even though we're in extra time here, so maybe it's a stamina issue. But, like, the goals that I have to score, like, my players aren't rocketing into space and smashing shots away. I have to really, really go high percentage shots. Like, here's another one. Should have went in, right? Like, I felt Puskas kind of slow up so the Trent could get into the way there, and it causes him to not score that tramp goal. Like, 9 times out of 10 that goes in when your team's playing on full morale. They're playing, it's really crisp, right? And those passes will come across and he'll smash it into the empty net. That's a super high percentage shot. There was nobody between my two players. All he had to do was make that simple pass, but instead he underhits it, and my player stutters a little bit, so it causes the defender to get into position. Next thing you know, we're going into a shootout. He scores a really fluky late corner that I don't know how that went in, to be honest with you, but he ends up doing a good corner technique, and his base gold Kimpembe somehow out jumps 2 guys. He scores in extra time. Next thing you know, we're going into a shootout, and he wins in the shootout, right? So, like, look, you can say that's on me, right? There's elements of that I could control, but I almost guarantee you that if I would have been playing with the team that I would have taken offline, we have a different result, right? Now, it's still going to be a close game. It could still be a really good game. He might have even beaten me. Who knows? All I'm saying is I felt really confident that could have been a very different result. And this is not just me for my losses. There's a ton of times where that type of result goes in my favor because I'm playing against a guy who either gets out-teamed, right, because my team is that much better and we're both playing on, like, really good chemistry, really good morale, and I just beat him because my team's better, right? I've just out-teamed him. There's a ton of times where I felt I've come against opponents where I can just see that their team he's just like not able to make passes, and you can just see the guy struggling to try to play with a broken game mechanic, right? A broken game, because his team, regardless of who he's got in it, you can just see them. They're making these passes that are slow, and they'll skip and they'll bobble, and he can't just get any flow to the game. And it's just easy. It's easy for me to defend against because I can just run in, power him off the ball, and next thing you know, I'm hitting upfield and my team is just attacking with flow. In a game like that, there's no flow, right? And now because we've taken a loss here, like that's a perfect example, right? I've come up against this opponent who, this guy, like no offense to this guy, but this guy wasn't good. I don't want to say not good. He just wasn't a great opponent, but because my elo is dropped, I think we're at like something like 3-2 or 4-2 or something like that. I'm coming up against some very average opponents. You can tell there, like just double kickoffs, right? Both of our teams defensively have just allowed really ridiculous things. And I understand kickoff's a little bit of a novelty because for some reason we'll address kickoff in a second, but it's just way overpowered. Like there, ton of guys in the box, right? Normally I've got really good position, and I'm not saying that this is impossible to happen when your team is playing to their best, but normally my players keep better shape. Instead, they're just there and they're clueless, right? They're like pylons, for lack of a better term, right? Even there. I've said this before, that when your guys score and they kind of do that stutter like that, and they kind of do that weird run after they score, that I think that is a telling sign. I actually think that shows that like the mechanic is kind of broken. They don't do that turn and they automatically run towards the sideline. They kind of stutter. It's almost like the mechanic is broken in those players. Like the player animation is broken, right? So I know I'm getting really in the weeds with this stuff, but there are telling signs that you can tell if your team is playing broken, for lack of a better term, right? So that is one of them, right? They score and they kind of stutter around and they do some weird animations, or they do that weird lean over run where they run like this. When you see that after a goal celebration, that's because the game is actually in your favor and it's working towards your favor, right? So you're getting the like handicap or whatever you want to call it. Handicap will be in your favor. They do that lean over run. That is actually saying, hey, the game is actually really, really, really moving in your favor, and you essentially couldn't do anything wrong there. But yeah, again, we're getting in the weeds here with this, right? So, like I said, this opponent, he's got that red card now. I just need to score goals. He wasn't a great opponent. He only scored those 2 goals. And, like, look, I'm sorry if he ever sees this, man, but, like, those 2 goals that he scored, they were really just because the game just broke my defense, right? Like, the first one was a kickoff. I ended up scoring a kickoff, so I'm not taking anything away from him. For whatever reason, kickoff is just way more broken this year than I've ever seen it. But, like, look at his chances. He would basically just get it to Benzema. He would do that wide run where you try to go around the defenders and he would just hit shots. Like, it was really ridiculous stuff. So he wasn't actually working really good quality opportunities. He wasn't trying to score high percentage goals. He was just very easy, very predictable, but I just couldn't stop it because I was playing with a broken defense. But he ended up getting kind of like a fluky goal. And I know people don't jump down my throat. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to be honest about it, right? Like, look, if this guy was a fantastic player, I think some of the guys that I played earlier, really good opponents. They understood how to break the game. Some of them were just scoring goals. Like the last guy I played, right? Even though my team was kind of playing at a certain deficit, he was good enough. The guy that had the Ukraine flag, he was good enough. He took me to extra time with a very average team, right? Even with a handicap, like normally when you've got a good enough team, you can kind of play your way through it. However, that guy was good enough to use that average team and take me into extra time, regardless of how his team was playing, how my team was playing. He took me there. He was a good opponent. I don't think this guy was very good. I just think, he was very average. And now at this point, he's got the red card, so his team's getting those defensive boosts. I just knew that he was just poor enough. I was going to eventually score another goal. It's going to come here. You guys will... I believe we ended up scoring another one. It might actually finish 4-3. I can't remember. But look, the reality was I was never in any concern here with it. I was just kind of playing the rest of the game out. Here it was. So yeah, as you guys can see, he was okay defensively, but attack-wise, he would just force the ball up to his strikers and he would just run. So it was just the game that kind of kept it a lot closer than it probably should have been. I don't think this guy was really great. It was what it was, and we'll put that away. We'll make it 5-3. So we'll get back on the winning streak here. But he had that stupid dinosaur celebration, so that obviously lit a fire under me too, right? It just was like, okay, this guy wants to be really cocky about it. Be my guest. We'll just stomp you with a 5-3 victory. So it was what it was. How far are we in? I think we've got a couple games left. I think we end up. I think we're about 5-3 at this point. I think that was our 8th game. I think we've got a couple games left. So yeah, really long video, guys. I appreciate if you have stuck with me this far. Yeah, the kickoff was one of the things that I wanted to talk about. I don't understand kickoff this year. I really don't get why it is so overpowered. Normally, I haven't been that impacted by kickoff, but this year it's really bad. So I've been watching pros, and one of the things that I'll do now by default, if I see a guy just get the ball and run right off the bat, I essentially call for the offside trap just to get the guys moving. The offside trap is really quick, so as soon as the kickoff happens, it gets your players moving, and then because it's so quick, they run up and then they'll settle back. But they seem to be stuck in a slumber right off kickoff. So it's, for whatever reason, it's a tactic that I saw Jukes doing. For those of you that don't know, Hectic Jukes is like a pro player. I don't know if he still plays for Chicago, but he did for the Chicago Fire. Fantastic player, really good streamer, somebody very entertaining to watch. But just the way he plays is so entertaining. He plays the game, in my opinion, the way it should be played. He plays a really, really, really cool short possession based. Hyper aggressive attack, like hyper aggressive defensively. I think he's one of the better players that I like to watch. I think there are some really, really good pros, but he's just one of those guys that I think understands the game and can play his style of game similar to the way I like to play every year. It's just he's much better at it, right? So he can play that way every year, and it's always going to translate well in the game because he understands how to keep the ball, keep possession, and make the most out of it. He's just a really, really good player. But yeah, it was a tactic that I learned from him. As soon as the kickoff happens, press down, it basically gets the players moving. They jump up into an offside position, but because the guy just kicked off, it's not like it's going to leave you susceptible to offside, and then they'll settle back into their normal position, but at least it gets them out of their slumber. For whatever reason this year, I know the kickoff has been an issue in years and years past. However, it never seemed to be that bad, but this year I've gotten beaten so many times off of that kickoff. The guys will just get it and they'll do a wide looping run. They literally hold sprint and they just sprint. I don't even want to say it's a skilled type of run. It's basically what noobs would do, right? So a noob would just get it and try to run because he's frustrated and doesn't want to go backwards. He just wants to get back in the game and score as quickly as possible. So in the past, they would just get it and run. And because they're holding sprint, they can only curl their run so aggressively. So it ended up being really wide. However, it would take them naturally between the wing back and the center back. So it would do this wide looping run and it would go in between those two. And then they'll just cut in towards goal because that when you're holding sprint, that's about as wide or as tight as your run can get. And for some reason this year, the defenders don't identify it. So they would go in this wide looping run and your center backs will just kind of watch them and they'll do this. And you're tracking back with the midfielder trying to like bounce off of them. Like my Conte will just bounce off of these guys sometimes if he's got like a Benzema or whatever. I'm literally doing this, and then my defenders are just kind of like watching him, and they just literally go right through them, and the defenders just do this, and then they just follow it. It's really bizarre, but like that. If you're wondering how to break that, definitely make sure that you call that offside trap because that's the only way you're going to be able to break it. There is another example of Ederson being an absolute sieve, just comes in, ducks out of the way, falls out of the way of the shot. All he had to do was literally stand there and I could have saved it. However, he does not do that. So, cool. Thanks, Ederson. That's the reason I ended up selling him. This guy was a really good opponent, actually. I'll give this guy a lot of credit. We're 3-3. Obviously, my team's kind of still in the mud to a certain degree, but this guy was a good player. He understood how to... Oh, I don't know. That killed me right there. I should have put that away. Again, I got to work on my penalties. I need to watch a penalty tutorial. I thought I had it under wraps, but that could have ended the game. So that's my fault. I totally take, I take the blame for this even going to extra time. It should have went extra time. I should have put the game away there. But you know what? You leave guys hanging around, you know what's going to happen, right? We had a couple opportunities here late in the game. I thought Pato was going to bury that one, but for some reason he let it go cross body and he ends up hitting it in a real flat shot. Pato hasn't really been that bad. He's not a guy that I call on that much. I think we'll probably just keep him on for a super sub for probably a second team, because at this point my main team is looking pretty good. I was looking at actually what a second team would be. I've got enough really good cards that I can build a decent reserve squad at this point. I can build a really good EPL team. And yeah, I think he'll probably just be a super sub for that team because I don't even have enough room on my bench for him. I like to bronze bench, so I'll have 3 subs and then the rest bronze because I like to bring my rating down. Those of you wondering why I do that, it's because of matchmaking. Nobody wants to play sweats over and over and over. Your elo from your win-loss ratio will automatically make you play against good players, but if I'm playing against good players that have really high-rated teams, I'm going to be doing myself a disservice. I'm going to be playing in an even tougher game. So like I just would choose to play against lower rated teams if I can. And look, call me whatever you want, say whatever you want, but like you should do the same thing, right? I think it's idiotic for you to come up against really, really good players that have really high rated teams. Why bother, right? Like it's a don't hate the player, hate the game type of move, right? So that's why bronze bench, it brings your elo down a little bit. Look, at the end of the day, you're going to end up playing yourself in pretty much every game because elo is impacted heavily by your win-loss ratio and how good you are. But, you know, you can obviously bring it down a little bit by bringing down your squad rating overall. So that's why people bronze bench. So yeah, Pato doesn't make my top 3 there. He ends up just sitting on the reserve bench. He's really just a trophy that's just sitting there. But overall, he's a decent card. I just don't think he's one of the best strikers in the game at this point in the game. I think if I ever build an MLS squad, he'll be the starting striker. I'm a big fan of Pato in the past. I just, you know, I'm not going to end up using him. But that is going to be the end of this video, guys. I appreciate you sticking with me to the very end. I know it was a long one. And until next time, guys, take care. Peace.